It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not even about us. It's about legacy. It's about what we choose to leave behind for future generations. And that's why, for the next year, and for the first time since 1974, the best and brightest men and women of nations and corporations the world over will pool their resources, share their collective vision to leave behind a brighter future. It's not about us. Therefore, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is welcome back.
The work of a single organization, the Syndicate. A rogue nation, trained to do what we do, imbued with a new sense of purpose.
The Syndicate, you say? Yes, sir. That's what he calls it.
A Quiet Romance is the subject of the #1 novel on the New York Times bestseller list and also an upcoming film by Steven Spielberg. Author Robert James Waller joins us now to talk about an extraordinary, appealing love story between a photographer on location and a farmer's wife. The book is called The Bridges of Madison County, and we're joined by the author now. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
First of all, congratulations. New York Times bestseller list, #1 after some 25 weeks. And the book was first published, what, April '92, something
April.
like that. Is this your first book?
My first novel.
First novel. And you've already completed subsequent books to this.
Yes.
That have not yet been published?
Yes, I have at least 2 more novels finished, and numbers 4 and 5, whatever they are, laid out, or 300-400 pages into them.
What's great about this is, 1, the story of the book, 2, the story of the writer, and 3, the story that's in the book. I want to talk about each of those.
All right,
First, the story of the writer. How did you come to writing, you, a business professor at Northern Iowa State?
At the University of Northern
University of
Iowa.
Northern
Right.
Iowa.
Well, it's a circuitous route, so I'll have to tell you a few background details. I was a professional musician, semi-professional, professional for 25 years, and played guitar and flute, and so the romance has always been there. I went to college on an athletic scholarship and became a photographer and started writing essays and so on. The actual book was written after I'd been down photographing the bridges, the covered bridges of Madison County, Iowa. And I began to think about a song I'd been writing. And it had a line in it called, I know you have your own dreams too, Francesca. And so that kind of flopped around, and I looked at the photography equipment on the truck seat beside me, and suddenly the name from Robert Kincaid came to me. What's going on here? And I stopped my truck in a little park, walked around, kicked the tires, went home. My wife was going through the equipment on the floor, turned on the computer, and wrote for 2 weeks, sleeping
almost nonstop.
2 or 3 hours a night maximum.
Yeah. And it flowed.
Oh, it was given to me. I never knew where the next line was coming from, but when I got to it, it was there. And that's hard, I'm sure, for people to believe, but it's true.
What did you have when you sat down? Did you have the notion of one force meets another force, 2 people come together? What?
I had 2 or 3 basic ideas. I wanted to talk about the notion of the unconventional, alienated male. The thing that really fascinated me to begin with was the intersection of 2 completely different worlds. Here's the mystical, world-traveling, sophisticated photographer who's been everywhere, and the farm wife who's rooted there in what she calls a life of hammering sameness.
Yeah. She's about 45, Francesca.
She's 45.
Yeah. And Robert Kincaid, is
52.
And what connects them?
Well, it's a mystical thing. It's partly that he's contented, as he describes it, but lonely and alone. She describes him as he gets out of his pickup truck. She said he looked like something from a never-written book called An Illustrated History of Shamans. Her first thought when she sees him, the sort of magnetic thing that does happen between people, in spite of the world's cynicism about that kind of thing occurring.
Tell me what you're saying about sort of the absence of passion, untapped passion, and the absence of even eroticism in people's lives. It's there, but not tapped, not touched, not connecting.
It seems to be almost some plot to keep people from being passionate, to keep people from being erotic. So many demands on our time. We put premiums on things such as, well, the Super Bowl, for example. I suppose that's a kind of passion, but we're not, I think we're talking about the kind of passion.
Relationships.
Yeah, that's in the book here. I think to maintain that kind of passion, you have to have an interest of some kind in the arts. I don't care if you're a plumber, I don't care if you repair typewriters. I think everybody should have some kind of interest in the arts, the music, the visual arts, those kind of things. Somehow that generates, for me at least, a sense of eroticism and a sense of passion. My wife is an artist, too. So,
This is a love story, but it's also a story about responsibility.
Absolutely. It's a love story that turns into a story about responsibility.
And that's really what it's about, in a sense.
Both great passion and the kinds of decisions that come out of great passion.
I don't want to give it away,
Sure.
but I do want to deal with the notion of why this story has connected with America. This is not a book that was widely promoted and had a huge advertising budget. This is a book that's made its way to the bestseller list and to being #1. But something has happened in the bookstores of America. Before we get to that, the notion of the selling of a book by booksellers and word of mouth and all of that, what's the connection you think about this story and readers so that it has crept to where it is?
I'll quote a few of my readers.
Okay.
Maybe that's a good way to do it. One said, in an age of great cynicism, you've shown that great passion is still possible. Others say that it explores the relationship between men and women in such a way that it allows them to open up, just the way Francesca does.
To be what? To be open to what?
To the notion of passion when it comes along. And
to be spontaneous and to
experience.
experience.
To be more spontaneous, to be more creative, all of those kinds of things. People say the book has changed their lives.
Why do you think they say that?
Well,
what could change their lives about this story?
Well, one man called me. He happened to be from New York. He called me the other day and said that the woman he was in love with had lived in a cocoon for years and years and years based on a bad former relationship. They both read the book. She read it. And for some reason began to open up to him and say, I think you're right. Great love is possible. So well, anyway.
Did you have any sense of this when you finished the book?
Yeah, I knew it was.
That somehow you'd caught on to a magical story?
For me, I had. And 4 or 5 of my trusted local readers at home read it and reacted the same way. And they were a cross-section of people, librarians, teachers.
Was it hard to get it published?
This is something another interviewer once accused me of being disingenuous, but this is absolutely true. I had no thought of publishing the book. I just wrote it for fun because it was a story I had to tell. I remember I was a full professor in
business.
Economics and applied mathematics and a nice life, So I was doing a book in economic philosophy when I wrote this. I wrote this thing because I had to write this book. And my local readers all said, get it published, you've got to. I said, oh, New York, that's a big deal.
Was it because you didn't want rejection?
No, it's just I didn't have time. I don't have a low tolerance for nonsense, for fooling around with marketing things. I'm not very good at it.
And so how did it get published?
The guy who had published my previous 3 books, which were essay books, nonfiction, read it. And he said, could I do something with this? Would you trust me? So he found me an agent in New York, got me in touch with them, convinced them that they ought to read the book, and they did.
And when did Steven Spielberg see it, or someone reading for him see it?
Well, Warner Books bought it in November of '90, along in there somewhere, and Spielberg bought it about 3 months later, in '91.
Have you had conversations with him about the book?
Not with Mr. Spielberg, but with his people out there.
And what kind of movie do they want to make, and who do they want to cast in the roles of of Robert Kincaid and Francesca?
I'd like to beg off the second question because they're in the casting right now, and I really don't want to.
Well, do you have favorites?
Oh, sure.
Who do you see in your own mind?
Oh, I really let me back off of that. I'm afraid I'll get in trouble with.
All right, let me go down this line though, which is interesting to me. The bridges. Look, let me show this cover. The bridges of Madison County. They say they are metaphor for what, if anything, other than the fact that this is a photographer who photographs bridges?
I didn't intend them. See, that's what you get into when you write. I didn't intend them to be a metaphor
at all.
It was a place. It was a reason for that photographer to come to Iowa.
That's simple.
But, yes, that's simple. But
I don't want to read anything into it either.
But it turns out now people are seeing bridges between men and women and so on.
But it's none of that. It was just a good story for you that you had to write. Have you ever felt this urge before about a story?
No,
where you had to put it to paper?
No, I have about some songs I'd written, but the time involved is a good deal different. I mean, you might be able to knock off one of those in an evening or two. Never quite like this. Don't know if I'll ever feel it again. Wonderful, zen-like ride.
How did you know when it was over?
I didn't. I kept wanting to write it. I told my wife, I said, no offense, I said, but I really don't want to do anything with the rest of my life except work on this book. She read it, and I kept trying to add to it, and she said, Robert, it's over. She says,
stop.
The characters have told you it's over. They don't want to go any further.
So she recognized it.
She recognized it. She's very right about that.
It is said that this book became #1 by word of mouth, that independent booksellers. What happened? Independent
booksellers and readers themselves. Well, the Warner's marketing strategy was simply to send out a large number of review copies. And in 4 or 5 different cities in the country, people who were influential in the independent bookselling community read it, started holding it up to their customers, saying, read this book. Yeah. Oh, the store in Sarasota, Florida, sold it a money-back guarantee at cost, just because they believed so strongly in the book. They sold 1,500
So they didn't
copies.
sell at the price it's on the flyleaf, which is $14.95. They sold it at whatever their cost was.
$9 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
they sold 1,500 copies in Sarasota, Florida, and in 1 or 2 months. Word started getting out. Publishers Weekly said, what's going on here? There's some bookstores selling this. People started talking. And all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, the curve was very slow to begin with, and now it's surging.
You recoil at the notion of a love story comparison, not out of disrespect for Eric Siegel, who was a Harvard professor, but simply because it was a different story and written for a different audience.
Vastly different story, vastly different audience. Has some of the same, tugs at some of the same emotions, I suppose.
Which is, we're all a sucker for a great love story.
Oh,
are we
of
not?
course.
Living and dying. And
no, that's right.
Not a sucker. I mean, maybe that says something about our lives, that all of us, when we see one that seems to be real or seems to have some magic to it, we're attracted to it because of the absence of magic or at least the potential for magic in one's own life.
Absolutely. One of the reviewers said, one of the most charming things about this book is that the characters are extraordinary, and yet they're the kind of people you stand next to in the grocery line at the store. And I like that.
Because you want it to be ordinary people caught up in an extraordinary experience.
Exactly what I wanted it. I think that's one of the reasons for the book's popularity. People say, this could happen to me.
Yeah. But he's not an ordinary man, is
no,
he?
He's
a photographer for National Geographic. He comes to Iowa. He's you said he's a mystic.
Of sorts.
There are also those, and I'm trying to stay away from an obvious question, who want to say that that Robert James Waller is Robert Kincaid.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, and you are in part.
To a large extent, yeah.
What part of you is him? What is it about him that's you?
One of the main things is this sense of alienation that I feel, estrangement from the modern world. He says that he feels he's ill-designed for the world in which he lives, and I've felt that way for a long time.
How so?
I was telling somebody the other night, I feel very comfortable with the notion of having been one of Emiliano Zapata's soldiers, for example, the dust in the wind, or sailing with Cook around the Horn. I'm a romantic.
Sorry to say, the romantic is the word you think of yourself.
Yes, unabashed, incidentally.
Then what are you doing, with great respect for Iowa and for University of Northern Iowa and for the profession of economics and business? What are you doing there rather than sailing the 7 seas?
Well, that's the subject of a couple of other books I'm working on. You're raised by a conventional father who came through the Depression, teaches you to be a responsible, conventional man and to raise a family. And you have this tug within your life all the time. Be conventional, be responsible, take care of your family, or just take off and do all kinds of crazy things. And it's a fascinating tension. That's the word I want. Fascinating adventure.
Is that the title of the book?
No, but it's, you know, I have traveled a lot now as I've gotten older and so forth, gone off and done a lot of things. My wife will come down the stairs and see the gear stacked there, and she said, you're going? And I said, yes.
And when you go, how long do you go for?
Oh, without her, when I'm going by myself, 2 weeks usually.
Just go off somewhere?
Yes, just go.
I mean, around the world? Do you go to New York?
Well, I might go to the coast of Maine and do photography. I might go to Oregon. I might just drive the truck around Iowa for 4 or 5 days.
Do you keep a journal? Do you write? I mean, is this a kind of
I carry
exploration?
Sure, I carry a laptop computer with me. I do photography. I carry a small tape recorder.
How will this change your life?
The book?
Yes.
Well, it's already changing it substantially. One thing it's doing is buying us economic freedom to travel more, to do what we want to do, retire early, spend more time on the arts, which is what I've always wanted to do.
So this gives you the resources, in a sense, to be free.
Absolutely. There's no question about that.
And with that freedom, you will do what?
Do more of what I'm doing, explore the remarkable thing called the imagination. Not just mine, everybody has it. Just keep exploring that and seeing where it goes. It's the most incredible feeling to have that imagination rolling in its pure form.
A 1,000 years ago, there was a witch named Varicella who gave her own heart to black magic in exchange for greater power. Consumed with hatred for the human race, the heartless Varicella searched for 3 legendary magical artifacts. They were the Mercury Slippers, the Broom of Sorrows, and the Lilith Wand. By combining their powers, Varicella could then unleash the Forbidden Moon, a deadly spell that would plunge the whole world into eternal darkness and turn all humans into helpless toads. Varicella was so wicked that all the witches agreed she had to be stopped before she could complete the spell. The witches banished Varicella into the pages of a magic spell book. My magic spell book. As for the 3 magical artifacts, they were scattered across the magic realm so that no one might ever bring them together again.
Let me out of this book! Ah!
That is why, since that very day, there have been good witches and there have been wicked witches.
There are thousands of spells in here. How am I going to find the one that Mrs. Cauldron just used to send her niece off to school?
I believe you'll find that spell you're looking for on page 658.
Oh, thanks. Did you just say that?
Nevermore!
Oh, that's right. You're a raven. You just say nevermore. Who's talking?
Just a friend. Here, let me help you.
Thanks, whoever you are, whatever you are. All right, let's see here. A one-way trip to the School of Witchery and Witchcraft. That's the one.
One selfish act, and it will release Varicella from her prison in the book.
Hey! You missed the spot! It's not fair!
Being good is overrated. Maybe you were meant for something different, Abigail. Something bigger.
You're that witch Auntie Esther told me the story about, aren't you? The one they trapped in the book so she couldn't cast a spell on the world?
Oh, well, sort of. But there are 2 sides to every story. Abigail, wait. Don't you want people to fear you, respect you?
I suppose.
Give me a chance to talk to you. Just the two of us. I have great wisdom to impart. Unless you'd rather spend your life writing on the blackboard or scrubbing the floor.
Wait, I want to hear more. How do I do this?
All you have to do is wish for it out loud. Wish for me to be free. Abigail, wish for me to be free, and I'll tell you all.
I wish you to be free.
Abigail!
I'm not sure what just happened, but I know it's not good.
I'm free! Free from the prison of that dusty old book! Sorry, my evil cackle is a little stale. It's been a while, hasn't it, sis?
Sis? Like in sister?
Wait, this means Varicella is also my aunt?
You never told her I was your sister?
I've spent 1,000 years trying to forget it.
Let's get out of here before it gets any uglier.
Yes, she's my sister. We share a name and also matching lockets forged from the love of our parents. I don't suppose you kept your heart, Varicella.
I got rid of mine more than 1,000 years ago.
Yes, I suppose you did.
Who let Aunt Varicella out of the book? I'm afraid it was me.
Well, this is a lovely family reunion. But if you'll excuse me, there's some unfinished business I must tend to. Like this. Nice to see that after 1,000 years. I haven't lost my touch.
You monster! I once trapped you into that magic book, and I can do it again.
Not if you're a crystal statue.
Abigail, remember, the strongest magic doesn't come from a wand.
Never That's Mrs. Cauldron's locket.
Auntie Esther!
What did she mean about the strongest magic?
Doesn't come from a wand. It comes from the heart.
The heart? Please. I lost mine to black magic long ago, and I've never felt better.
Gee, you know, this is fun. It's nice to be able to relax and not have to worry about doing the show. Club.
Well, they keep bothering us about publicity on the show. I mean, what the heck? I think everybody knows we're on. Two hearts.
Yeah, show business, that's fine, but it's fun to just sit and relax for a change. Play cards, three spades.
Publicity's good, but we're not only performers on the Dick Van Dyke Show, we're also people. For no Trump. I mean, we do have other interests, like pass.
Pass. You know, most people think that actors don't talk about anything else.
Lay your cards down, Dick.
You know, when I'm away from the studio, I don't even think about the show. No. Well, anyway, it's on most of these CBS television stations on Wednesday night.
Joining us in the studio between Steve and myself is a wide receiver, Terry Glenn. And Terry, thanks for coming in. It's nice to see you. I think a lot of people would want to know how come you weren't in fine uniform today as opposed to coming on TV here, but I guess you can answer that question.
Well, you know, I wish I was out there. The guys out there look like they're having a lot of fun, and I definitely would like to be a part of that, but, you know, right now I got a sore hamstring.
What is the deal with the hamstring? And how, you know, when you say a sore hamstring, people say, well, the darn thing's been sore for 8 weeks. And when are, if you are, going to play here again?
You know, I can't answer that question. Only the doctors can answer that question, and it depends on how I feel from week to week. And as of last week, I didn't feel like I can go out there and play and give it 100%. And right now, I'm just trying to wait day to day. Tomorrow, I'll know more.
Chronic disorder. That was your disability. What's up with that?
Just what it says. It's what it sounds like.
A chronic depression, I should say.
Yeah, chronic depression.
Depression.
I guess that's the diagnosis that I was given. You know, I went to go see somebody, and, you know, the man told me that I was suffering from chronic depression. And I really didn't know what that was, but I knew something was wrong when I always woke up every day and kind of, you know, not happy and going over to the practice field and not feeling up, you know, to do the things that I wanted to do. And when I went to go see him, he said, you know, you're suffering from depression, and that's what it was.
You know, Terry, I think the frustrating thing is, and I'm sure, and maybe it is for you, but for the fans to say, God, this kid's got all the talent in the world. You've heard it all before. All the talent in the world. He could really help this team, especially now because they're starting to win. You could stretch the field. You could do so many things. We'd like to see him out there. You remember that first half when you were back, and for that one game when you were back, the crowd's reaction. All that other off-the-field stuff was forgotten. It was all about Terry Glenn, football player.
Well, it was forgotten by the fans, but obviously I'm the one who goes through it, so it wasn't forgotten by me. Granted, it was fun to go out there and catch passes and catch a touchdown and help win football games, but the reality of the whole matter is I still had to go home, and I'm still living with the same things that I was living with before I went out there on the football field. So for people to say, hey, you know, he needs to get out there, he needs to do that, sure, I want to get out there and do things like that, but on my end of it, I want to do it, but on the other end of it, I don't think that's what other people have, you know, in the view.
Do you want to play here? Do you want to play for the New England Patriots?
I did.
Did?
I did. D-I-D, I did.
That means pass.
It does. And as of right now, I don't see me playing here next year, and I don't see myself being in a Patriot uniform.
Now, why do you say that?
I think things have turned for the worse. You know, I've done some you know, bad things during the lifetime of, you know, of my life, and I will take responsibility and say I have done some idiotic things, and I'm trying to grow up, and I've done things that have hurt my reputation, but also there are things that you try to get over. You know, it happened, okay, let's stymie it and let's move on and try to live for the future.
Well, people say you don't take responsibility.
No, those people, you know, they can say what they want to say. I don't live for the people. You know, I live for myself. You know, I have a son, I have a little sister, and those are two people that I really live for. And I try to take responsibility for my actions. You know, there's things that happen, and they got escalated, and I say, hey, you know, it wasn't my fault. At the same time, it was my fault. I initiated what happened, but there were some things that really escalated that I had to fight and I had to battle with, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to just lay down and say, hey, I'm dead, and you can just go ahead and suspend me for this and do whatever you want. Things that happened wasn't my fault, and I'm going to say they weren't my fault.
Terry, where does football fit into the scheme of things for you?
You know, it's right up there. That's one of the things that really makes me happy. One of the few things in this world, and I love to do it. But right now, you know, I'm hampered by a hamstring injury, and I can't go out there and do it. So, you know, I'm not doing it.
What about your signing bonus, $11 million? Have you blown that altogether? I mean, do you ever think about that? Do you ever sit at home and say, I've just blown $11 million?
Actually, no, because it's never been about the money to me. I can care less how much money I make. I want to play football and be happy. I want people to respect the fact that I get up every morning, I live my life the way I live my life. I've been through these things, and I have to go out there and put my front foot forward and do what I have to do. It ain't about the money. Like I said, you know, I don't see myself being in a Patriot uniform next year. I will go to another team and make the minimum.
You know, Mo Vaughn said it wasn't about the money.
Well, this way, let me ask
but athletes say it's not about the money.
We're just kind of running short of time. I just want to clear up this this perception. Perception is Terry Glenn's not playing because he's not getting paid. I mean, he's getting paid his salary, but he's not getting paid his bonus money. So it's kind of like a wildcat strike on Terry Glenn's part.
I mean, you can view it how you want to view it.
I'm asking you what
Media
the
people
reality
do it
is.
every day, all the time.
Just give me the reality.
Say what you want to say.
Give me the
I mean, that's what you say.
No, just give me the reality.
That is the reality. The reality is what you make it to be. And that's what it is.
Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. I can handle it.
No. Are you? I mean, you can answer that.
The
Steve
man.
may answer that. You may go get Ron Borges or some of those other guys over there, some of them other characters over there. Maybe they can answer for you. They'll come up with something that they can just say and get people to believe. I mean, I'm okay with that. I know I'm bothered by hamstring right now, and I'm not getting paid, so you do the math.
If you were getting paid, would that hamstring get better? Let me ask you that question.
I don't know. I really don't know. I can't say that. I don't know.
Do you see yourself coming back and playing this season?
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope so.
Do you?
I would love to. I would love to go out there and have fun with those guys. You know,
don't you think that they, I mean, obviously this hasn't, your teammates seem to support you. And
that's fine.
I mean, is this true or not?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I welcome it. But if they didn't, I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep. I love the guys on that football team, and I want to go out there and work hard for those guys. But at the same time, when I leave that facility, I have to go home. Those guys don't come home with me, okay? So therefore, I live my life the way I got to live my life. Just like you got other guys like Curtis Martin and guys like that are no longer with this team, they had to move on. And they found other teammates and other guys they have to rely on, have to rely on them. That's what I'm saying.
What's it like watching your team play and you not being there, like today, like a big win at home today?
You know, I get nervous just like I do when I'm out there playing. I'd rather be out there with those guys and trying to help them win. But like I said, there's more to it than just going out there playing with those guys trying to help them win. You know, I'm happy for Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm real happy for Tom Brady.
You see any issues with Bledsoe? And you've been around more than most with Bledsoe, so...
Do I see any issues?
Yeah, with him.
Brady or Bledsoe?
Brady or Bledsoe? Obviously Brady. He's helped the team win thus far. And the performance tonight just really shows what kind of guy Brady is. Regardless if he go out here next week and fall flat on his face or not, this guy has really dealt through a lot of media criticism, and a lot of people have said he probably can't do it and he's going to fall on his face, but he's showing you.
What about the coach? What about the coach, Terry? Do you feel betrayed by him? Do you feel betrayed by the owner?
Not at all. Not at all. I felt that these
by either
people,
one?
Not at all.
Okay.
These people did what they had to do under the circumstances. And I say if you're going to continue to allow this to go on, then let me go. That's all I can say. If we're going to end this and move on and go to the future, then let's do that. But why continue to escalate something that has already happened? There's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is put an end to it and try to move on to the future if you want me here. If you don't, then dispose of me or do whatever you can with me to get me out of this uniform.
Who has to give first? Who has to give in first? You or the Patriots?
I've already gave in. You seen me came here. I came here San Diego week, prepared, ready to go, giving it my all. And that's what I did. The other side didn't give anything, didn't budge whatsoever. And, you know,
so you don't think the Patriots have cut you any slack whatsoever? You don't think the Patriots have been patient with you that you are even still on this football team?
Look, I don't care if I'm still on this football team. I love to play football, okay? Mm-hmm. People get paid to play. People get paid to do their job. And that's what I want to happen. I want to go out and play, and I want to get paid. It's not about cutting me slack, all right? I go out here. I help this team win football games. I give it my all. You can't never say I give it my all. I give it my all. I played every snap the last 2 years, haven't been hurt. So therefore, you know, the Patriots have...
Hi, and Happy New Year. We're back at the beautiful Chez Josephine restaurant on Theater Row with our show about shows. I'm joined with my friend and New York One colleague, Frank Delella, and the ever-prolific Tom Meehan, the writer of such classic musicals as Annie, now in revival, Hairspray, The Producers, Chaplin, and most recently, Rocky Das Musical.
Jawohl.
Welcome, Tom. Let's talk about Rocky. What was it like to work with Sly Stallone on this show?
Well, everyone has an idea what Sly Stallone, I don't know if I can say the name, Sly Stallone is like. And they think he's like Rocky Balboa, and he's not. He's this kind of extremely bright, charming, interesting man. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of brains. And it was when I first met him, he wanted to do the musical of Rocky, and it was arranged I'd go up to his house in Beverly Hills, at the top of Beverly Hills. It's way up. There's a mesa on the top where there's a huge Spanish hacienda. It's Sly's home. I went there, and he took me into his private screening room, which is about the size of Roxy. and we watched Rocky together. And I'd had the idea that he might be right about it being a musical. When we saw it together, I thought, yes, it is. It's got all the elements of a musical. It's particularly a great love story and a great kind of David Goliath story.
Tom, you were the first one brought on board with Sly to do Rocky, and then you guys went on this massive search to find the songwriters. I understand you went to R. Kelly, and you finally ended up with Aronson Flaherty, who wrote Ragtime, Seussical, Once on This Island. Just talk a little bit about that journey.
Well, Sly had the idea that we should use existing California big-time songwriters for movies and for records, and he came up with R. Kelly, who was in Chicago. And he and I flew to Chicago and met with R. Kelly, and R. Kelly was working at the time on a series of songs about the Vietnam War, believe it or not, in a warehouse on the third floor of a huge warehouse at the edge of Chicago. He built a jungle, and there was a kind of jungle, and they were all wearing camouflage, and we got off an elevator and walked into this jungle and had to fight our way through with machetes to get to R. Kelly.
What a scene!
It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. R. Kelly did not work out as a songwriter, but it was an adventure of a lifetime. But I kept saying this, like, this really calls for an experienced Broadway songwriting team, and I think I know the people who could do it. So I went to Aronson Flaherty with the idea of Rocky, and they both looked at me like I was crazy. They then read the script, and we looked at the movie together, and they looked at each other and said, yes, you're right. This could be a musical.
The stagecraft in Germany was amazing. You actually have a full-fledged boxing ring as part of the
which comes down from above and swings out over the audience. It's quite a moment.
Whose idea was that? Did you come up with it in connection with Alex Timbers and the set designer?
I think it was all of us together. We're talking about making that happen.
And Stephen Hoggett did the boxing choreography.
We brought Stephen Hoggett into it.
Yeah.
But the idea of actually having that, having the ring come out like as it is, and the whole deal that we have there is from Chris Baraka, who's the set designer.
We have to close, but I wanted just to talk a little bit about your other projects. You are doing a musical adaptation of Tootsie, of Dave.
Dave, yeah.
And also, when are we likely to see Rocky, whatever you can tell us about it, in New York?
There's a search on for a theater now. And there are many theater owners interested. And it looks like it's somewhere, not this year, somewhere down the line.
Well, great. You'll have Rocky. You're going to have Chaplin touring the United States. And it doesn't sound like you're too busy, Tom. We got to get you working on more
I know.
things.
I'd like to do another 2 shows.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Frank. That's it for this edition of our show about shows. Meanwhile, you can follow me at playbyplay@artinfo.com. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again.